The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Atlas Chiropractic Center of Escanaba, Michigan, Largent Media, or any of their affiliates or subsidiaries. The material and information presented in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Should you need medical attention or advice, seek out a licensed medical professional or facility in your area. The Tapping Into Uncomfortable with Reade Hubert DC name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.
Welcome to Tapping Into Uncomfortable. This is Reade Hubert, DC, also known as your cerebral park ranger that's rearranging the picnic tables on your campsite of mental complacency. This is how we always get it started. You know exactly what we are about to do. A little silence for the riff. Oh, yeah, that's how we do it. Hey, everybody. First of all, I absolutely have to apologize for that last podcast on traits. Hands down, that is some of the most amazing information, the basis for you, your health, the book, the whole thing. It was so rough that I even put extra tinfoil on my hat, but I actually got a sprained cerebrum. So what I had to do was I had to take it out for a walk. I had to apply some rest, ice, compression, elevation. I wore a sling for a week, and I'm just starting to get better because what I said in there, you could risk a sprained cerebellum. I never told you about the sprained cerebrum. And who got it? Your host. So I apologize for that. So I expect after today that I should be back to normal. And I know you're not going to like that. But anyway, so what is this about? Today's podcast is called Okay, So Now What? I gave you the 4 T's. So what we're going to do is, how do you apply this stuff? So I gave you all the categories, but one thing that I think you're going to find very interesting from here on out, I probably ruined all the health books for you. Not that you can't get things from them, but think about the 4 categories and let's go over it first. So first you get into self-help. There's your thoughts. You get into cooking and eating better. There's your toxins. You get into exercise and how to move. That would be your micro trauma building up resistance. And I warned you in the next one, genetics are coming. You are going to start to see books on genetics in the next 10 years and what you can do about that. So what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about something that's really been fired up in the news lately, biological versus phenotypical age. We're going to discuss, finally, you forming a health corporation. We're going to talk about capital T's and the world's most dangerous muscle. Finally, we're going to answer the question and answer on genetic victimization. And then I'm going to give you a new question to actually make your brain melt. And I'm going to probably bring in a little bit of a thing called the word police. Because what we're finding in healthcare is that the word police is coming in. And I don't think it's necessarily going to challenge you enough. But we'll discuss that. In the red corner, our challenger, weighing in at whatever they want to say, fighting out of the city of Ego, has a professional record of no wins and 12,000 losses. 3 T's, a.k.a. Nurture. In the blue corner, the champion, weighing in at the precise weight, fighting out of the universe. A professional fighting record of 12,000 wins and no losses. It's Nature! The referee for tonight's fight is C. Umfert. This fight is going to be a good one. Nurture has been eating a ton of processed food and not really exercising and thinks he has a chance while he's smoking and drinking. Nurture comes out fast. He's got a left jab, a right jab. Down goes Nurture. Down goes Nurture. Down goes Nurture. Once again, the champion of the world, Nature. Or it can be Nature and Nurture working together with some beautiful music. So let's talk about this biological versus phenotypical age. I was trying to figure out why all of this in this last month has everybody been talking about my biological age versus my phenotypical age. In other words, how old am I versus how old do I look? So phenotype is the expression of your genes. So it's your blue eyes. Genotype is your genes. So they took the genetic term of phenotype and they call it your phenotypical age. So what they're saying is, how old are you and how old do you look? So I couldn't figure out why everybody's talking about it until I realized that the people who are charging you for the testing are actually making this thing move in the health circles. What does this have to do with anything? If you want to give 1995, you can have markers tested to actually tell you, hey, you may be 55, but your age is 65. So let's break down the 8 things that they talk about that can make you look older. And now what you're going to do, you are actually going to apply the 4 T's. What I'm trying to do, folks, is save you money. Number 1 reason that you look older than you actually are, smoking. Coolest thing about smoking is that it involves all 4 T's. First of all, it comes in the body as a toxin, causes scar tissue in the lungs, trauma. You get mentally addicted with it, thoughts. Then it causes cancer by changing your traits or your genetics. Number 2, excess sun. That's one of the reasons you can look older. Breaks down, right? It's a toxin, comes in, changes your genetics, gives you cancer. Poor diet, toxins. Lack of exercise, micro trauma building resilience. Number 5, excess alcohol. Absolutely fantastic. You could tell this was written by somebody who thinks that a small amount of alcohol is good for you. I'm here to tell you that alcohol is not good for you, regardless of what you think. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy a drink, but understand that it has harmful effects on the microbiome. An absolutely unique thing I want to explain to you about the microbiome is that you can have a bacteria called Klebsiella, and you could have a colony that could be roughly 30%, and it can grow and take over. Now, what Klebsiella can do is it can take carbohydrates that you eat that come into the microbiome, and it can make alcohol. Then your body absorbs it. So you can drink juice made from sugars. If you have a very, very high amount of Klebsiella, you can get drunk. Legal limit drunk, stumbling drunk. That's what your microbiome could do. Absolutely cool. Just so you know that. That was number 5. Number 6 is chronic stress. There's your thoughts. Number 7 is inadequate sleep. Thoughts, but also it's connected to the gut. All right. So inadequate sleep. There's in your categories. Number 8, poor oral hygiene. Just in the news this last week, they're actually finding bacteria from the mouth with digestive cancers. Pretty fascinating. So poor oral health would be toxins. Absolutely fantastic when you think about it. See, I just saved you money. So if you want to do phenotypical age, then you go, what do I do about it? You change the 4 T's, or you change 3 of the T's, because we taught you last time that nurture is what you should focus on. Nature's kind of a waste of your time, and that would be your genes. So let's discuss this forming a health corporation. First of all, when do you form a health corporation? I want you to form an S Corp. S Corp meaning self. And I want you to name your corporation You Inc. It is time for you to do what you can do to take care of yourself. It is time for you to be the CEO, COO, CFO, and the POOP of You Inc. You have to start taking care of yourself. Be dependent on yourself to make some of these changes. What I want you to focus on is nurturing yourself. It's really a big deal, right? You nurtured your children, you nurtured family and friends, but now it's time for you to nurture yourself. If you ever go into a cemetery and you look at the grave plots and you look at the tombstones, you'll see people's dates, when it all started, when it all ended. The fascinating thing about those 2 dates is they're separated by a hyphen. That's your life, folks. What do you want yours to be? You need to be motivated. You need to understand that it's up to you. So that this corporation that you can run, I want you to take care of yourself. The number 1 rule in forming a health corporation, S Corp of You Inc., is to understand that I need you to be perfectly imperfect. Help yourself by finding somebody who can help you, especially in the thought category. So I'm going to break this down even further. I told you to nurture yourself, and there's 3 T's: thoughts, toxins, and trauma. I actually want you to work on 2 of them, 2 capital T's, thoughts and toxins. The cool thing about trauma is you already know it. You already know if you're traumatizing yourself and what you should do to actually stop it. Use the Goldilocks theory, take really good care of yourself, use rest and repair. Where we're failing is on thoughts, because ultimately what is not happening is nobody has ever taught us how to take care of us. We think we should be able to go on 365 days a year for years not taking care of ourselves. One of the things that I have found taking care of myself as well as taking care of people, something as simple as 20 minutes in the morning by yourself with a hot drink. Takes 20 minutes to cool off. No phone. Something that gives you peace, gives you rest to start your day. Second thing is another 20 minutes at night. Something that simple. If you've noticed, everything I've ever taught you so far costs you nothing. All this is going to do is cost you time. And if you can't do that and you're stressed out, you seek some help. It's okay. That's the other thing too. And you incorporated, it's okay. It's all good. Take care of yourself. Because here's what's going to happen. You are your brain. If you don't start taking care of yourself, it's also responsible for toxins, which we talked about are on or in. We discussed how a wonderful, amazing, fantastic, and special you are, that we're literally thousands of generations of being human right now that brought you exactly to this moment at this time. And understand that for hundreds of thousands of years, the human body hasn't changed. The only thing I can see right now that has changed that we can prove is we no longer need our wisdom teeth. Other than that, we really haven't changed. So what's the key to toxins? The American diet, I was reading the other day, is 90% deficient in vegetables. And vegetables are the number one thing we need in our diet. We're 80% deficient in fruits. And the reason that that's not higher is because we like the taste of sugar. I told you a long time ago that hunter and gatherer, that's where your body actually lives. Hunter and gatherer meaning vegetables, fruits, nuts. And if you need help eating, find appropriate people. Get that help. But understand, it's where it's found is in vegetables. And the other part that people don't tell you about hunter and gatherer means you're moving all the time. Exercise. What's fascinating about the human body, and no one's ever told you this, but if I actually gave you a whiff of a skunk, you would immediately know that that was a skunk if you were an adult living in the United States. Do you know why? Because skunk is made up of spray, and that spray is made up of 3 different types of sulfur. The human body's nose is extremely sensitive to sulfur. Why is that? Because when we were maturing as human beings, we had to know if something was rotting. See how absolutely amazing the human body is. That's the reason we and sulfur really don't get along. We're able to identify it, so we're not eating rotting stuff, causing a toxin and killing us. So the capital T's of nurture is definitely thoughts and toxins, and you need permission to take care of yourself. It's very, very important. Healthier habits mentally will help lead to better eating. It's amazing. And that will lead to a better hyphen between your dates. Here's some things that are concerning me about what's happening in healthcare right now. About 4 months ago, I actually put this up in my office. In a digital magazine that we get consistently throughout the U.S., there was an article in there. And that article said, you should not use the term exercise. You should use the term physical activity, because you may traumatize people with the word exercise, which will not make them do anything. I'm here to tell you, if you get traumatized by exercise versus physical activity, just imagine what you're going to get traumatized with when your health really goes bad and you really have that nasty diagnosis. Who's going to be there then? So I need you, nor will I back off on exercise versus physical activity. I want you moving. That's the problem with the word police getting into healthcare. Because by changing words, making things easier, is the outcome going to be any better? I don't know. It's going to be up to you. Last but not least, we are going to be discussing the world's most dangerous muscle. This muscle you've never heard of. It is brutal. It actually gets its nerves from the brain. Cranial nerve number 5 goes to it. What makes this muscle so dangerous? It is responsible for one of the things that makes your life more miserable or can make you very sick. It's found in your cheek on each side. It's known as the lateral pterygoid. Pteryggoid. The lateral pterygoid, what it is actually responsible for. It is one of the main muscles that is responsible for you opening your mouth. How many times in your life do you wish you had those moments back when you opened your mouth and you inserted your foot? I think I have about 75,361 of those moments, and I'm not done yet. But number 2, that lateral pterygoid is also responsible for you putting and stuffing that cream-filled, sugar-laden pastry in your mouth. That muscle is responsible for opening, and it's solely controlled by you. As you move forward, one thing you may want to do, and this is where you have to be careful because there's a lot of people out there with eating disorders. We need to get back to conscious eating. The ability to prepare our meals, to think about our food, to think about what we want. Preparing our food again. And if you consciously start doing that, you decrease toxins, has a dramatic effect on the mind, and it actually works on those first T's that you need to nurture yourself. But the lateral pterygoid is responsible from your brain, from you, to open your mouth, and then what are you going to do with it? When you activate the lateral pterygoid, you can degrade or uplift humanity. You can degrade or uplift yourself. When you open your mouth, you can nurture yourself with food and water as nature intended, or you can bring a fight to nature by starting food and drink destruction to the human body. So I'm leaving you with that. But we're going to our question and answer. And our question and answer last time was, because healthcare is pivoting towards genetics, are we more prone to being genetic victims? 100%. That's exactly where we're headed. There is a whole part in my book about genetic victimizations. I am extremely worried about what's going to happen. Here's the reason why, folks. Because if it's on your chromosomes, it's on your DNA, and you're told that's in your chromosomes and on your DNA, then what's the use of nurturing yourself and what's the use of taking care of yourself because you're already predestined via genetics? You're automatically going to go into victimization mode. It's going to be a fascinating time because a victim needs a perpetrator. And it's always been from the outside in. A perpetrator did something to somebody, they became a victim. What are we going to do now? It's going to bring on a whole different level of victimization because that victimization is coming from chromosomes. Or then it's coming from you and you're victimizing yourself. It's going to be absolutely a wild ride. But that's my worry. And there's a big difference between a victim and a survivor. In my book, it's one of the things. I totally respect survivor. You folks out there have been through some amazing things. I salute you and a non-visual thumbs up. I have absolutely, once again, melted your brain. So here's the last very difficult question. When we're all traumatized and microaggressed, who's going to lead? Oh boy. Once again, if you didn't put the foil on, you're at risk. When we're all traumatized and microaggressed, who's going to lead? So as always, I want you to be happy, I want you to be healthy, and I want you to just be. Hey, folks, just want to let you know, remember this whole podcast is based on a book, and that book will be out this year in 2024. So be on the lookout for 4 T's to a Better You, a blueprint for identifying and addressing the 4 causes of sickness. When it comes out, you'll be able to buy it just about everywhere. Inside, internal, and external. It's like a race car going around the track. There's 2 forces that work on that. There's a big thing when you're going around the circle called centripetal and centrifugal. One goes out, one goes in. That's what keeps the car on the track or going into a corner. Any slight variation at 200 plus miles an hour, they're either smashing into the wall or they're going into the pits. That's exactly what happens inside the human body. That's why it is so important for you to understand the 4 categories. It is so important for you to start to take care of yourself because that's how it works. So what you want to do is watch your body, especially with a cold. That toxin comes in, that virus, 90% of them are viruses, comes in, and within the first 1 to 4 days, you feel pretty miserable. Might have a low fever, you just don't feel good, you got brain fog, you're really quite affected by this. But what happens in the next 5 to 10 days? Your body starts to get rid of the fight that it just had. After you're done, your body's done with the infection. Now it's time for rest and repair. Got it? My friends, that's how beautiful and fantastic you are. And we need to respect that again. All right, folks, this is my favorite time of the podcast, and this is called Time to Think. This is a spot where I want you, we'll answer it with the next one, which is traits, and then we'll have the 4 T's done. So as it comes to physical trauma, if you have 10 fingers and 10 toes, what's your excuse for not being able to do what you're capable of doing? So as always, I want you to be happy, I want you to be healthy, and I want you to just be.